I see Jessica is on, and at least I think she is. There she is. Hey, Jessica. So Jessica is here to talk about Homeschool 101, which we've been doing a lot of, but I'm sure she's got a really good take on it because everybody has a different perspective. And I opened the session up so that people could jump on, and so hopefully they will. And if not, we've got recordings that are going out to a ton of people. And I'm really excited about what Jessica's going to tell us because she was great yesterday on the question and answers that we had. And so without any further ado, Jessica is from North Carolina, and she is a homeschool coach that is demanded worldwide to speak. And she's very, very good at what she does, and she's been doing it for a while. So let's hear what she has to say.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I was a former homeschooler, time when not many people homeschooled. So I feel like I have a unique perspective on the student side of things. And I heard you speaking yesterday, Stacy, about saying I'll never do that, and then you have a 180 and you do that, and now I do it professionally, and that's what happened to me. But yes, so I was a homeschool student, and then I was a homeschool teacher. I started teaching with my mom in a co-op at 17 and tutoring. And then I became a professional tutor kind of on the side through college, and then graduated, started homeschooling my daughter and helping so many people learn to love homeschooling and to find the good in it, which it's a different mindset. So it takes a little bit to get used to. But then after doing that for a while, I just started my own business with it because I loved it. And I also got my master's in education, which was a goal of mine to get my master's, but I never really knew what I wanted to do because I did not want to be a classroom teacher. But I realized, I could do consulting, and then, my master's would work for that. So without further ado, we'll start Homeschooling 101. So I kind of I'm a very practical person, I think, like where the rubber meets the road, and my clients want direct answers, and I try to give them that as much as I can. So I hope this talk kind of shows you my personality, because I think it screams my personality. And but I need, if you could possibly enable the screen sharing. I have presentation, I have slideshows that can be done, that can be shown along with it, and I'll pull those up as soon as I can.
I'm working on that right now.
Thank you. I have 3 children. I have a 14-year-old, I have a 6-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old. So I'm in the thick of it, as well as, helping other people do it. It's not quite enabled yet. And I've learned one thing is there's nothing quite like being a parent in this journey, because when I first started homeschooling my daughter, I was like, that's it. I've taught, I love it. I was a student, I can do this. And then when it came to actually being responsible for my daughter's, the entirety of her education, I felt a little bit lost. And so that's what I try to share with people, is things that I wish I had known at that point in my life. Yep, I see it's enabled now. Okay, so I'll pull it up. So these are the 5 steps to homeschooling that that is actually at the end of a larger presentation that I do on Homeschooling 101. And I do it in our state a lot. It includes North Carolina laws and things like that. And the purpose, like I said before, is to make homeschooling easy on people so that they have like a definite starting point. But I do have a little bit to say before we actually get into the 5 steps. The first thing is give yourself lots of grace and arm yourself with truth. Those are my 2 kind of homeschooling go-tos, because it takes a lot of grace to figure out the first year of homeschooling. It's kind of your trial year, and then a lot of people really hit their stride in their 2nd year. And I know that seems like it can be a long time, but it's not. It's a wonderful journey where you get to know yourself and you get to know your child, and it's just a really great bonding experience. And arm yourself with truth. I say that because I think it's important to research yourself even, and your child, and learn your learning styles and things like that, and to match to the correct curriculum so that you can find what fits best for your family. So that's really what I like to see in the first year. And a lot of people don't realize that homeschooling is the earliest form of education. So you're not doing a new thing. You're doing an old thing when you homeschool. It's been around since the beginning of civilization. And here's a quote on here. Once upon a time, all children were homeschooled. They were not sent away from home each day to a place just for children, but they lived, learned, worked, and played in the real world alongside adults and other children of all ages. So that's important to keep in mind. And I've got a little bit of history I want to share with you on that, because I feel like this really arms and empowers people to pursue homeschooling, to know that from the 1600s to the mid 1800s, education laws were minimal and children learned practical skills at home. Reading and writing were secondary to survival skills, in some case, of managing the family farm, but only upper class boys were even sent away from home to be educated. They would sometimes bring in tutors, and they would sometimes have mom groups and things like that, but it was never a thought to be sent away all day long. By 1918, all states had compulsory attendance laws to protect children's welfare. And the reason for that was the industrialization of America and to protect them from working in factories. So that's really the root of the current education system, is sort of a factory-like mindset. And this is the experiment. The current education system is the experiment. Homeschooling's not the experiment. It might be your personal experiment, but it's not the societal one. Once compulsory attendance laws were in place, homeschooling was not widely practiced anymore because you were forced to go to school. Let's see here. My internet's running just a little slow today. Okay. So there's a lot in that presentation, and I'm doing it free for the first 20 people who sign up on my website. It's jessicaembryeducation.com. You can also go to my Facebook page, and there's an event there, but the signups actually click the link through to my website. It's a free presentation. I do Homeschool Basics. It talks about, this is the end of it, as I said, just because our time was short today, but it talks about socialization, goes through all the different curriculum types and how I like to group them. So it's very, very informative in helping people just get a huge education launch pad to start homeschooling. But once you've gotten all that under your belt, a lot of people are like, okay, but give me, how do I start? Okay. So the first thing that I suggest doing when you want to start your homeschool is consider, why do you want to homeschool? What are the reasons that you're homeschooling? Basically, what is your homeschooling philosophy? If you're from a corporate or background, or a background that's familiar with writing a mission statement, then write a mission statement. And while people are pondering, because this is really important, when I do it in a session where I have more time, I'll say, go ahead and write this down. If you know, write this down. But here are the 7 major reasons from homeschooling from the National Home Education Research Institute. These are the 7 major reasons why people choose to homeschool. It doesn't mean it has to be one of yours, but it's food for thought. So, do you want to homeschool to customize or individualize the curriculum and learning environment for each child, to accomplish more academically than in schools, to use a different approach than the school is using, to enhance your family relationships, to provide guided and reasoned social interactions, to provide a safer environment because of some sort of violence or abuse, to teach or impart a particular set of values. And I think it's really important that every member of the family who's participating in the homeschool write down their own, number 1 reason they're homeschooling, and then have a conversation where you're kind of compare and contrast, especially both parents' sort of goals for homeschooling, because I can tell you this, it doesn't matter how academically sound your homeschooling ends up being. If you don't fulfill your heart reason, your philosophy for doing it, you will not be happy with it at the end of the day. And I've experienced that personally, and I've seen many, many clients experience it. And I always go back. This is like go back to the drawing board. When things aren't going well, you need to know why you did this in the first place. And yes, you will forget as it gets hairy with time and curriculum and everything else. I even suggest printing it and putting it on your homeschool wall so that on the hard days, you have it to look up to go, yeah, that's okay. We're doing that, so we're okay. Even if math is behind, I'm teaching my set of values, and that's important to me, and that's getting done, so I'm okay now. So that's step one. And then when that's done, and take some time, have the conversations. And if you have an older child, I would invite them into this process as well. It may be different goals for different family members too, which you want to make sure that, everybody is on the same page with what really needs to be done. So it's a very important first step. But once it's finished, then I divide the homeschooling jobs up into like the principal's job and the teacher's job. And this is where I think a lot of homeschool moms get overwhelmed. And of course, you have to check with your state laws on this. But in North Carolina, parents, and I think this is fairly universal, parents are the ultimate principal. They have to decide and be held accountable for what is in the homeschool. But that doesn't necessarily mean they have to teach every single subject. So there's kind of two hats you're going to start wearing along with your mom or dad hat or caretaker hat. But the first hat you have to put on is your principal hat. You have to get it set up right. And then once it's set up and you've analyzed the situation, you know what each child needs to do for each subject, then you could start making a plan of attack on how to get all those little pieces of different subjects done. So for the principal, step 2 is consider what you're going to do for each of the core academic subjects. Now, you would be surprised maybe, but my experience is that homeschooling, especially new parents, tend to overdo instead of underdo. So I really like to emphasize here, pick one for each school year. And the language arts can be broken down into, I'll read this aloud for those who are on audio, spelling, vocabulary, grammar, writing, and reading, and then math, and then you have science and history, and then if you want any other electives or activities. So you want to set short-term and long-term goals for completing the subjects and the grades. So this is another job. What are they going to do, for the year? Then how does that break down to the month, the week, and the day? And then you're ready to start setting your schedule because you know where you're going and you've decided how you need to get there. All right, so step 3 then is talk with your spouse. Now you've got because a lot of times it does, I guess, fall into mom's lap to do a lot of the planning, but you really need a partner if you can find one in this. If it's not your spouse, maybe a veteran homeschool mom, to get a feel for what's good for a time and money budget. If you still have your principal's hat on here, but you're kind of putting facts to what you would like to do. And don't be afraid to ask if you have a partner in this, especially in the money piece of it. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. I mean, the worst they can say is no, but at least they know it's a need. And then remember, when you're talking about time and money, it's not just curriculum. It's your travel. If you want to start doing more travel with your kids for field trips, for fun, extracurricular activities, and then don't forget to budget for rewards, for special rewards. So it's really, there's lots of free rewards out there. At the end of the week, you could go to the park, but it's nice to say, hey, we could go get ice cream if you make an A this quarter, or however you're setting up your homeschool. So you need to have a talk about time and money. And, if it's a need, but you don't have the resources right now, pray about it and just kind of put it in the system and see what'll happen. You'd be surprised how many times, once you've really figured out what you need, how it will come your way. And here's a sample, just a very, very simple sample of how you could lay out a homeschool budget. What is the resource or the activity? How much do you think it will cost? How much did it cost? And then a starting budget. Okay, so now you're ready to plan your week. Who's going to do all the work of teaching all of these wonderful subjects that you have laid out for your 10 kids? No, just kidding. So this is how I like to break out the time, which is maybe a new thought for some. is to have like time zones sort of, or I have brown and then blue and then green, you can see on the screen. So the brown is like actually your teaching time, mom or whoever's the main teacher in the house. And blue is your student is still working, but you're not teaching. So either they're doing homework or they're studying or it's their reading time. And I have run into several situations. And I know this is a bit tricky, but I'm going to put it out there as food for thought, where there was no homework time and all the school time was always done with a parent sitting there supervising. The issue that happens with that is they don't begin to really learn accountability. So true story, I taught a middle school Spanish class in a co-op situation. I'm not a fluent speaker, but they asked me and I had enough to get by on. It was a beginning class and it was years ago. And I had 4 students in there. Actually, all 4 were boys, interestingly enough, and 2 of them were brothers. And so the first day of class, I assigned their homework. It's very normal in the homeschool community to meet once a week and to take work home and do it over the other 4 school days and then bring it back. So that's what I asked, which is very typical in the homeschool community co-op classes. They all came back the second week and had not done any of the homework. And I said, why didn't you do your homework? And they said back to me, what's homework? And I said, well, it's work that you take and you do it at home. And one of the boys, the most innocent look on his face, said, I've never done work. This was all of them. I found out was their first class outside of the home. And he said, I've never done work unless somebody sat with me at the kitchen table. And I said, well, let's try again. And I sent out an email to parents like, can you please help? Apparently, they don't think they're supposed to do work unless you're sitting there. So you can handicap a homeschool student by not having accountability. And I really like to do this early, even in kindergarten. Color a page, I'll look at it tomorrow. Look at a book, we'll talk about it tomorrow. To teach them, you do it today, you're happier tomorrow when when you've turned it in. I'm just a big fan of graduating that, and so they become self-directed learners. So they have the confidence to know that they can do it on their own. And by the time they're middle school, which is that transition age, they're transitioning towards really taking control of their own education and just taking it and learning it on their own. And in high school, I see that happen quite commonly, where high school homeschool students, the parents are fairly hands-off because they have taught them step by step, but it takes work. I mean, I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but it can be achieved. And then the green time is like extracurricular time where the student has input. So this was fall 2016 for my daughter. This was my idea. Like, we were going to have our mornings together, and then I was transitioning her into her own quiet time. Didn't always last 3 hours, but I had a baby that slept in the afternoon. So that was kind of my idea. And then, she would have like a little bit to do, and then she could watch a movie or something in the afternoon. Then I might check back in with her 2 days a week. The other 2 days a week, we headed off to do something. But this is how it actually worked out. So you can see the flexibility there. So I'm also a big advocate of pulling in your other family members to just take one subject. And her dad offered to take math. He's an engineer. And I was like, great. So he did math with her 2 mornings a week before he went into work. And my mom is a former kindergarten teacher. So she said, I'll take history. Great. My checklist is getting knocked off very quickly. And then we did science and geography at the co-op. So I picked 2 and she picked 1. She picked art. And she also picked chorus in the afternoon, which was at a different co-op. But anyway, she also wanted to take cooking classes. She wanted to play basketball, and she wanted to do Lego robotics. So she had quite a bit of input on her school year. And really all that kind of got left in me was language arts. That was not hard for me, considering what all I might have had to do. So if you look around you, there's lots of help. And I do like, for co-ops, I think they're great resources for science and history in the elementary years and middle school years especially. But I really do like parents to not be very hands-off with the language arts and the math, because if you turn that over somewhere and then the learning doesn't happen, it's a little bit hard to play catch up. So being the principal, you know, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure they're learning what they say they're supposed to be learning. And sometimes that can happen, sometimes it doesn't. So keep that in mind. Even if you do sign up somewhere in a co-op, you still need to make sure your child is getting the information you want them to get. You can stop being teacher, but you can't stop being principal. So once you get all of that figured out, and I know that's a lot, then go back and check in with step 1 and your homeschooling philosophy and go, okay, where is it on the schedule? Where is it on the schedule? Was it to enhance family relationships? Where is family night? Was it to teach your faith? Where is whatever, Bible class? Okay, make sure that the time is put in and on the schedule for whatever you said your main philosophy was. Because I'll say again, I can promise you that schedule can be the most fabulous academic schedule you could ever imagine. But if you do not stay true to yourself and accomplish what you really, your heart really needs to accomplish, and it may be that you want your child to have an awesome academic year, then that would be on the schedule. But whatever it is, you just want to make sure that it's on there and that you've actually made time for it. So this is mostly for my state, but you will find statewide conventions, regional workshops, conventions like this one online. There's co-ops locally, there's great magazines, online resources, blogs, and then of course homeschool consultants like me. There's many, many, many places to arm yourself with truth. So homeschool allows you the freedom to step off the highway of learning and take the more scenic route along a dirt road. Is there any questions? Comments? Anybody want to chime in?
I really like the idea of going back after you've done most of the schedule work and checking in with your purpose again, because I know that can really get away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your schedule that you had there, that was for a junior high-ish, or?
That was for, let's see, Naomi's going into 9th grade, and that was 2016. So was it 5th grade, maybe?
Okay, yeah, elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Late elementary.
Okay.
Might have been 5th grade, 6th grade. I'm thinking 5th grade. I have to do the math later.
Yeah, just curious because I know that for very youngs that would not be probably that much, but that looked like an older kid's age. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on your family situation, your kid. Like I said, I had a baby at that point, so she was really my only one for a while. And now that I have 2 younger ones, I'm having to rely more on my network of moms to help me get her everywhere she wants to be. But my oldest is really a school person and a go-getter. And I don't have to do a lot of directing, but I know that I'm blessed and fortunate in that area. And I definitely won't have that in my middle one, and it's yet to be seen in my younger one. So, you really have to build the schedule that is right for you and your family. But yeah, that was a very fun year. We had a lot going on that year.
Sounds like it, yeah. So if you had, like, say 3 kids instead of just the one, and they were kind of close together, how would you, because obviously they're not all going to pick the same extracurricular type of things, and they're in different things. How would you handle consulting the kids on that sort of thing? Would you allow them one? Would you allow them to each pick, whatever they want and then try and figure it out? Or how would you think you would handle doing that sort of thing?
I mentioned this yesterday. I just think it's really interesting that research by Brian Ray says that homeschoolers are involved in 5.2 activities each. Mm-hmm. And you could see on my daughter's schedule that we were definitely involved in a lot of activities. So, as far as a situation like that, you really just have to build your schedule and see what your resources were. But if you have them close together, it's easier to pull them together on a subject, which saves mom a lot of time. So I would start trying to put my puzzle together saying, okay, where do they overlap? Even if just two of them overlapped, and the third one, like for math, if you could find a way to pull two of them together for math, and then you're only teaching 2 math classes a week instead of 1. And I just, I'm a huge advocate for moms. I mean, that's really me. It's like, you have to maintain your sanity in this craziness, and you can give and give and give until you're burned out. Ask for what you need. Put together what you dream, figure out what you've got, and then start praying and building a bridge till you get there, and give it time to grow. And a lot of times we get into it and we think it's one way and then it's really another way. But, to answer you specifically, in that situation, I would definitely try to find a way where children have input and control and can choose an activity, and co-ops are great for that. If you have 3 close together in age, they could probably go to the same co-op. Like we have in our county, a elementary middle co-op and then an upper middle high co-op, and they're on 2 different ends of the county. So but they're 2 different days a week, and there's moms that do both because they've got the age spread. But if you've got them close together, you could just go co-op in one morning and let them pick. I mean, in elementary, they could really just about pick all of it. A lot of them are educational, oriented anyway. Or, if there's something you really wanted, just work it out. But if you're feeling like there's just no other way to give them choice, that's one way, that you could just be there all together and let them pick a couple of classes. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Cause I know we were talking in the last session about getting overwhelmed, and that's with the schedule is a really easy way to get overwhelmed. And and I know with multiple children, I've had some that even in public school that are, the kids want to do everything. They really want to do all of it. And at some point you just have to say, okay, you have to choose, because I can't do it all. I think the co-ops are a good idea for that sort of thing.
Yes, and sports too. I mean, if they're close enough in age range where they could be on some of the same teams, that would keep you from running all over the county at night. Right. So that's a good outlet too. And then if they're all interested in the same thing and you have the resources to do it, like art, you could actually have someone come to your home and do it with all 3. I'm always looking for people who will come here to teach one or more of my kids, because then I don't have to get in the car. I don't have to get the little kids in the car, and everybody's just so much happier. So I've had great success with finding both music teachers and art teachers and tutors who will come to my home. Nice. And a lot of times if you get like college kids, the prices are not that bad because they're just wanting the experience, and I'll give them a great reference. So, I mean, it's a different mindset. And I really try to tell people, like, think outside the box. You're not limited, and there's nobody breathing down your neck. I mean, there are some states that have more parameters than others, but in general, I think, for homeschooling, you've just got to take advantage of your liberties. And sometimes until you get into it and get plugged into your community, you don't really know what those are. But moms, take care of yourself first, because if you're crazy, everybody's crazy, and if you're happy, that's true. If mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And that's just the truth. So, you really need to take care of yourself first. And if you need a break, ask for it. I think the hardest thing is that we want to fight saying that we even need the break sometimes. But I feel like I've really personally learned that it's okay to know that you have limits, and to ask the people, your support system, to lean on them and say, hey, I really need limits, or to just stop for a little while and give yourself a break. It doesn't take that long to learn. When you're working one-on-one with your very own child that you know so well, in most cases, it can go a lot faster than parents think. And then they're like, did I do enough? But, the classroom teacher, they have 30 children on one, and they don't know a single one of them at the beginning of the year. And by the time they figured out all their personalities in November, then they're just struggling to get the time in with everyone before the end of the year. And then it starts all over again. A lot of school systems that I've heard of in my state are trying to move to a system where they have the same teacher for 2 years in a row, which I think would be a huge benefit. So yeah, it's not the academic piece is not going to be that hard. It does need time and attention, but it's not going to be that hard. It's just getting all the pieces put together in the right place. And I just want everybody to feel encouraged in homeschooling. I know this has been a big year. There's a lot of new homeschoolers this year and a lot of just really sad stories in the media anyway. So let this be a blessing to you. Let it be a season of rest for you. Start slow and steady. Do your research. You've got time to, to make decisions. And feel free to reach out if you need help. My website is jessicaembryeducation.com, and I will always answer an email or a Facebook message sent to me. Like I said, I'm having the free session in September, which is the hour and 15-minute long session on Homeschooling Basics. You can find the event on my Facebook page, and it's also on my website. So I invite you all to come, and I always have a questions and answer session at the end. So I'll be glad to answer any questions at that point.
Cool. Great. And I will make sure that those links get put up on the dashboard for people to have. And
thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you spending your time and coming in and doing this for us. It really makes a difference when people hear things. And this was a great wrap up for what we talked about, because we talked a lot about some of these things, but 2 days is a really long time to sit and take things in, and you just get full at some point. So I really appreciate you doing this 101 for us. And we will be sure to send people your way, and I'm glad to know you. Now, where in North Carolina are you?
I'm in the middle of the state, right between Raleigh and Greensboro, in a little town called Burlington.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I went to high school in Raleigh, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
great.
Cool.
Yeah. And I will, I do have a lot of clients, but if there is a group or a library, I do a lot at libraries for some reason lately, but if there's a group or a library or some organization that would like to get the homeschooling message out, I will do the 101. I try to do like a free one every month for different groups and things. So, but so just have them reach out to me if you know of anybody who's wanting just, encouragement, because I think homeschooling is amazing and I want everybody to give it a try.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm sure this is going to be a blessing for a lot of people. So.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Appreciate you coming in. Thank you, Jessica.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So what do we got next? I guess we have a break next. Is that?
No, I think we have the,
Next is.
are the sacrifices worth it?
Oh, are the sacrifices worth it?